Summertime, lots of fantasy drafts happening. So let's get you prepared. Make sure you're prepared early for your fantasy drafts. We're talking running back fantasy rankings, running back tiers, and maybe some sleepers to help you win your fantasy leagues, especially if you're drafting early. Get that advantage before all the hype starts hitting some of these prospects as we approach Labor Day in the 2025 season on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging with us as we approach 2025. Stick with Matt and I every day, breaking down the entire NFL. If there's something you want to hear about, hit us on Twitter, drop a comment, question on YouTube, get in those questions for this week's mailbag. And of course, while you're on YouTube, subscribe. I know even a lot of daily listeners aren't subscribed, so just hit that subscribe button on YouTube or anywhere you are listening to this podcast. In today's episode of Peacock and Williamson, brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits at FanDuel.com. All right, let's talk running back rankings. And there are a whole bunch of running backs. We could probably break the running back episode into 2 episodes because there's, 70 running backs that you can actually talk about that can make an impact. And a lot of times it's those under talked about names that become the league winners for you in certain fantasy.
We get long-winded on these top guys. Maybe we'll have to have a part 2 on it. Who knows?
Yeah. And so, maybe at the end of this series, we've already done quarterbacks and go see that episode from last week, and maybe we'll just have a sleepers episode where we go to different our favorite sleepers at the different fantasy positions.
I like it. Yeah,
in the summertime, and then maybe cross-reference that and check back after the preseason because things might change, and that's what usually happens. And that's why I kind of like drafting early, Matt, so I can get my favorite sleepers before the hype train starts rolling on some of these guys. So all it takes is Cam Scatterbo to have one good preseason game, and he's going to jump up 3 rounds, right?
Or even one good run where he breaks 3 tackles,
run, especially the big market of New York and the hype. Spoiler, Cam Scatterbo is probably not going to be one of my sleepers. So I wasn't as high on him
No, didn't love him either.
A lot of others. But
therefore, I like Tracy a little better now because he's dropped down with it. Right.
Back to back in these rankings. We're going to reference PFF, Pro Football Focus's fantasy rankings here, and we'll talk about some ADPs and some other things. And they've got them broken down into tiers and where we agree and maybe where we don't. So this is kind of our roasting of the rankings is kind of what we should We're using analyze these rankings. So Bijan Robinson, RB1 in the NFL. The first tier, according to Pro Football Focus, is number 1, Bijan Robinson, number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs, number 3, Saquon Barkley, and number 4, the rookie Ashton Jeanty. As great as Jeanty is, how do we feel about a rookie running back? You just throwing him right into the top tier. And by the way, he's in the top tier, and there aren't stalwart, superstar, veteran running backs in the top tier like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, so this is definitely the lowest I've seen Barkley. I know he's only 3, but I think we're all familiar with what he did last year was insane. However, I'm not sure I have a problem with it. I would have Bijan ahead of him. This is the only reason, is history. Remember way back when Football Outsiders did the rule of 380 or whatever for running backs. Whenever you have X amount of touches, the next year never goes well.
Yeah.
Well, Barkley way exceeded that. When you look at all of his touches, including the postseason, which obviously was a deep and very successful run, he had a lot of touches last year, and the tush push still exists, but he was also tackled on the 1 10 times last year on long runs and things like that. So I think 3 is a little low. I can't take Gibbs ahead of Barkley, but I would take Bijan just because I think he's really entering his prime, doesn't have that massive workload last year against him. Now, you kind of referenced him. I'm taking McCaffrey over Jeanty. I mean, I think Genty's a phenomenal prospect, but as we sit here in late June, do we know he's the third down back? Do we know what his role is? It's not going to, is it going to be every touch all the time? Maybe, and then I'm interested. But McCaffrey's the best scoring running back in fantasy history. I mean, you know better than I do, but do you have any concerns with him? I mean, I do think his ADP is consistently going up, but he would be in tier 1 for me and ahead of Genty.
Oh, there's multiple angles here. And one is we've talked about the top running back that's a rookie numerous times. And sometimes they go crazy. And sometimes they are just really good. And still like Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson wasn't RB1. He wasn't top tier running back as a rookie, even as talented as he is. And even still, I have a problem at the top with Bijan being number 1 just because when has he showed us that he's better than Barkley or McCaffrey or Gibbs? Yeah. So why would we expect him to be that? We're still projecting that from Bijan Robinson. And so maybe overrating draft position in some ways for some of these running backs as good as they are. Saquon is the best running back in the NFL. Not only that, he was not even touched until he's 3 yards down the field every run. It's such an advantage run behind that Eagles offensive line. He had 1,000 yards, Matt, before contact last year. Think about that.
That's crazy, right?
That is crazy. Barkley's 1. The only reason you don't draft Barkley is because you're worried about the injury. Because Christian McCaffrey is looking into Saquon Barkley 1 year into the future. And he was the guy the year before. He was offensive player of the year, and he had a whole bunch of touches, and he was a superstar for your fantasy teams, and then he gets hurt. And so that's really the worry with Saquon Barkley. And then you ask the question, okay, well now after a year of sitting and not playing very much, and he's 100% right now, and he's working hard, and he's running as hard as anybody in OTAs and mini camp for the 49ers. Do you go post-hype veteran sort of with Christian McCaffrey and say, well, look, if healthy, you're getting Barkley or Gibbs or Robinson or Genty anyway. And so if I'm going to get a little discount, maybe now is the time you dip back in on Christian McCaffrey and avoid potentially projecting a rookie, projecting Bijan to become the super duper star, projecting the full workload for Jahmyr Gibbs, projecting Barkley to actually stay healthy after the rule of 380. So I'm with you on that, Matt.
So if I'm convinced that I want to go running back in round 1, and subject to change, again, this is preliminary, process in terms of how I'm going to attack my fantasy drafts. I would much rather take McCaffrey with the 9th or 10th pick overall than have the 2nd pick overall and have to choose between Barkley, Bijan, etc. I'll take McCaffrey all day long and then come around the bend and get a much better receiver or whatever.
Right. So in my home league that I've been playing the longest, the winner of the consolation bracket the year before gets to choose their draft position.
Oh, okay.
Teams, pay attention to the consolation bracket. And so if I had that, I would say, oh, you know what? I'll probably take like the 9th pick in this year's draft, maybe, because now I get to come back around and get another player sooner. And I would just as soon take McCaffrey as any of the other guys that might go before him in that tier 1 of running backs, if I'm looking to take a running back in round 1.
What we do is we all go to a bar or stay close for like half an hour. We pull out 12 cards, and if you get the ace, you don't get the first pick in the draft. You get to pick what spot you want in the draft. And
the draft choices too.
Exactly. Just another reason to get there and drink beer, really. But one note on Jahmyr Gibbs, though, too. People might be like, "You've Gibbs that high." Well, they have Gibbs that high. I do not. I mean, he would still be a tier 1 guy for me. But I'm sure this is PPR rankings. It doesn't say it on there, but he has to be.
So let me just reference really quick. The big difference with PPR, nothing really changes. It's just that in PPR, running back 5 becomes Derrick Henry, the top of tier 2. And in non-PPR, Derrick Henry falls to like the bottom of tier 2 or the top of tier 3, essentially. He's like running back 10 instead. He just drops behind like Bucky Irving and Devin Achane in these rankings.
Gotcha. I mean, a Chan and Henry couldn't be any more different, and PPR versus non-PPR really reflects that for those two. But the last thing on Gibbs, I've heard some people that think that he may be better this year than last because new coordinator might prefer him. I don't know why they think that. But I do kind of understand this logic that the Lions go from a somewhat easy schedule to like one of the hardest schedules in the league. And they think they'll be in more close games or losing late in games, therefore less Montgomery. I can kind of buy that, but you're splitting hairs, you know.
I don't buy it at all. And here's the thing with Gibbs is and again, like Dan Campbell isn't playing fantasy football; he's playing real football. So what's the smart move for the Lions? Well, it's to have Jahmyr Gibbs healthy in January. He's not going to get the workload that the other guys we just talked about are, and that's the other reason I love Christian McCaffrey, because Kyle Shanahan will ride his running back one. And if McCaffrey's healthy, McCaffrey never wants to leave the field. When he trots off the field, he puts up the number one. Watch a 49ers game, watch McCaffrey leave the field. That means I'm leaving for one play. I'm just going to take a breath, and I'm coming back. I'm taking myself out of the game. Nobody takes Christian McCaffrey out, and Kyle Shanahan does not want to take Christian McCaffrey out. So if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, he's going to be RB1 is essentially what I'm saying. And Barkley's obviously too talented behind that line. He's got to be RB1 conversation, and he's the healthier guy coming into the year. And unless you're worried about his workload, and that's almost like tier one to me. And then I think we talk about Robinson, Gibbs, and Genty, in my opinion.
I get it. And they have McCaffrey 6th. I would much rather be the lawyer to say take McCaffrey first on this list as opposed to 6th.
Yeah, 5th in PPR.
Okay.
And then 6th behind Henry in standard.
Gotcha.
According to ESPN ADP, by the way, this is the order of the top running backs. Robinson and Barkley neck and neck at 1 and 2. Okay. But Bijan is ADP 3.3 and Barkley's 3.5 overall. And then it is Gibbs at 5.3 ADP, and then it is McCaffrey at 9 and Genty at 10. So that's the ADP on ESPN.
Okay. Like I mentioned, I think McCaffrey's ADP is rapidly rising, and it should be.
And the more healthy he is. And again,
exactly.
Genty, it's hard for a rookie. Like, are you going to go higher if you're already in the first round? But it probably could climb a little bit more if he starts to look awesome in the preseason games, even though he might not be used a lot.
He may not even play, but at least there might be reports that, his pass protection looks great in camp. He's going to be on the field all the time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing to forget. And so, I think we're seeing this the same as far as tier one and how things look at the top. Let's talk about a little bit more tier 2, tier 3, and maybe some running back sleepers for your fantasy leagues in 2025. Next. Today's episode of Peacock Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The Game 7s are over. NHL and NBA in the books. Summer sports in full swing. Major League Baseball every single day, whether you're all about ball, under the lights, golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And I know you're already following the action. And, of course, there's a million ways to bet NFL football in 2025 as well. Weekly lines are already up there. Bet on your favorite team to win the Super Bowl. Tons of prop bets for 2025. And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. You can make money while they're getting that sunburn. You can actually be on the beach and still making money. You can get a sunburn and make money if you want to, right? And of course, when it comes to baseball, live sports, you can bet before first pitch. You can bet during the game, live, same game parlays, tons of ways to play and ride that game all the way through the 9th inning, make every game exciting. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So just open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, Matt, taking a look at running back tier 2 rankings, tier 3, and the tier 2 here from PFF. And again, if it's non PPR, then Derrick Henry becomes the top of tier 2, and if not, he kind of drops a tier. And it's Christian McCaffrey, as you mentioned. Then it's Bucky Irving and Devon Achane, who are interesting ones. And I think per touch, Devon Achane is like the most valuable running back in the NFL. He's like ahead of Gibbs, right? And McCaffrey and all these guys. And Saquon Barkley, and Bucky Irving is just kind of the guy who's been awesome, but are you drafting this area of running back, Matt, in that tier 2 area and betting on Bucky Irving, Devon Achane in your fantasy leagues in 2025?
I already raved about McCaffrey, so I am definitely in on him. every year I doubt Henry and I never end up with him on my team. Oh, he's going to hit a wall this year. And then I'm playing against him and I'm losing, so I'm in on Henry. And if this is a year he hits a wall, so be it. They just gave him money. They don't think he's hitting the wall. Interesting notes on Achane is obviously his receptions are super valuable. And when Tua was healthy, Achane caught a ton of balls. When he wasn't, he wasn't. So just stash that one, in the back of your cranium there. But what made me crazy last year from a football perspective is they used Achane as their goal line back. And he's as big as my right leg. And there's a lot of fantasy analysts that are like, well, he's getting the prime opportunities at the goal line. I'm looking at it the opposite way going, well, he shouldn't because he's bad at it. He just gets bounced around I hope for the Dolphins' sake, he doesn't get the goal line touches next year because he's tiny and it's not his bag. So I would expect that part to go away. What do you think of Irving? I mean, I'm always a little biased against Kyren Williams for this reason too, because I just don't think that he's as talented as a lot of the guys we're talking about. Barkley, Bijan, of course. But opportunity is just so important for these guys. And he catches the ball. They love him. He's reliable. He's on a good offense. Great line.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time making that my first back taken. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at. And that's the reason that kind of brings us to the next tier of running backs. And you mentioned Kyren Williams. That's why Kyren Williams is one of my favorites because the team loved him. They gave him all the touches. Blake Corum last year, I thought was, an awesome backup for him. And they just didn't use him. They're like, yeah, we don't care about Blake Corum because we got Kyren Williams. And we like him a lot better. And so for that reason, I would rather draft Kyren Williams over Bucky Irving, a little bit later. Let's look at the ADPs to be exact here with PPR ADPs. So Achane's going top of the second round, basically 13.8 in ADPs. Even though Bucky Irving's ranked higher by PFF, he's actually going 9 spots later than Achane. So Irving is ADP is 22 right now, even though he's the 16th ranked player and the 6th ranked PPR running back, according to PFF. And then all the way down here, Kyren Williams, his ADP is very similar to Bucky Irving, but he's ranked a little bit lower. And I don't know why, because I like Kyren Williams a lot. So if the draft goes like PFF rankings, then give me Kyren Williams. But if I can get these guys in round 3 or 4, I'm into it. I'm not taking either one of them in round 2. But opportunity is huge. The offense you play on is huge. Your team handing you the football as much as possible is obviously huge. And then you got to talk about someone like Jonathan Taylor, whose ADP is 16, and can you trust him because his team loves to give him the football, but is he going to be that bell cow guy because he keeps getting nicked up, and he's in an interesting part of his career. So, by the way, that tier 3 for PFF is Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Kyren Williams, and Jonathan Taylor. And Walker and Taylor, as talented as they are, as good as pure runners as they are, kind of out on them because I just don't trust them. Yeah, the reliability is tough. Where the reliability with Kyren Williams and Bucky Irving seems really high.
Yeah, I definitely think Irving and Williams are kind of the same guy. I mean, there's a lot to like about both. Even though I don't think either is a superstar talent. Do you worry about Jacobs' workload? I mean, he has taken a beating in his career, and maybe the end is near for him, but he's been pretty productive too.
Jacobs is a weird one. In fact,
I never end up with him.
I will say Kyren Williams, and I watch more NFC West games than NFC East games. So I've just seen more of Williams.
Okay.
Versus Bucky Irving, I'm talking. Kyren Williams is one of those, and I think Bucky Irving's kind of similar, where the more you watch them, they grow on you. You're like, this guy's just really good, man.
And you understand why coaches love him.
Yeah.
Right.
One of those things. And Josh Jacobs,
highlight tape doesn't blow you away, but you watch every snap and you're like, yeah, I like him.
And this is going back to like pre-draft bias, which is, I'm bad at that. But
Josh
Jacobs has always felt kind of overrated, like the whole time, his whole career. And he's like good, but he's not like, oh man, I always never want to pay the Josh Jacobs price. And I feel like he's not overpriced this year, but I've never been all in on Josh Jacobs where you have to take him in fantasy leagues. So he's almost never been on my teams.
But meanwhile, I think Walker and Taylor are as good a ball carriers as just about anybody on this list. But boy, they're hard to trust. I mean, Seattle, I think, is going to run the ball a lot more. That coordinator change definitely helps their running game. I assume Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback in Indy, which I think means Taylor then gets the goal line where I don't want Richardson to be Taylor's quarterback if I know Taylor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Problem
work
with Jacobs and Taylor in this conversation is the ADP doesn't match the rankings that we're talking about. And especially when you look in this tier. So if you were just basing it off tiers, you would definitely be drafting Kyren Williams and Kenneth Walker. So Kenneth Walker's ADP is 40, whereas Jonathan Taylor's ADP at ESPN is 16. And Josh Jacobs,
I'm not taking him at 16.
Right. And
wow.
So that's you're paying that price. If healthy, Kenneth Walker's as good a pure runner as those guys. But again, you can't trust him. So I see why his ADP is 40.
But I'm buying him at 40 way before I'm taking Taylor at 16.
And I've been burned on this because it's the opposite of Jacobs, where I never pay the Jacobs price, but I have paid Kenneth Walker's price, and that hasn't worked out good for either. So maybe this is the area of the draft where you're like, this is where I'm drafting wide receivers.
The little homework I have done just on strategy and things like that is give me one of those tier 1 guys. Again, like if I'm picking ninth, if I pull the ace, or if I won your toilet bowl situation last year or whatever, give me McCaffrey at 9. And then I might not touch a running back again until like round 5.
That's the way I do it with running backs. Yeah, if you get the plug, you do it, or just collect as many sleeper lottery tickets as you can. So let's talk about some of those. Let's talk about the running back 2, running back 3 territory, tier 4 and beyond, and some of our favorite sleepers in 2025 at the running back position next. If you don't like the idea of drafting Ashton Genty, a rookie running back, a first-round running back, super talented guy, and I fully believe in Ashton Genty and his talent. I think he's going to be really good. So I wouldn't fault you if you drafted him in round 1 of your fantasy leagues. There's also a guy by the name of Omarion Hampton who's got a nice little path to being a star back as a rookie himself. And the early hype machine a little bit behind on Omarion Hampton right now, and you can get him much later. In fact, his ADP right now is 47.1 on ESPN.
I think that's all about Najee Harris, which would not scare me at all.
And he's ranked in the running back 4 territory as kind of like a an RB2. And we've seen how Najee Harris didn't hold on to an RB1 job in Pittsburgh, let alone your fantasy RB1 job. I think it would be the same. So I think this is the point where you could get a steal in Omarion Hampton if you're looking for rookie running backs who's ridiculously talented and a guy who's you're not sure if he's going to win the job. And then after 2 preseason games, you realize, oh, he's the one. And then he jumps 2 rounds.
I mean, the Chargers are a first-round pick on a running back. He's going to get the ball. I mean, maybe week 1, week 2 is a 60-40 split, but by Halloween, he is the guy. Najee's not special. I mean, they kind of got him as an insurance, and I'm with you. I mean, amongst the guys Hampton's getting drafted with, he's the guy I'm grabbing in this neighborhood.
If you just look at overall talent, what's going to win out, what's going to be more dynamic for the Chargers, and then you look at their skill sets and when they would be on the field, and then you look at what they invested to get those players. Omarion Hampton was a first-round pick. Najee Harris does not have a starting running back salary.
No, he's making like $4 or $5 million, I think, or something like that.
He's good in pass protection, though.
He is. He's reliable. That's the beauty of Najee. He never fumbles. He's reliable. He never misses time. Yeah.
And so the worry here would be short yardage and passing down work for Omarion.
Early, especially.
Early, right. But in the end, he's going to be the guy.
I 100% think so. Now, I'm more worried, just while we're talking rookie running backs in this tier for PFF, I don't love that Denver just signed J.K. Dobbins for R.J. Harvey. I mean, they did that right after camp, but they going, ooh, maybe he's not as far along as we think.
I think it's almost borderline insane to have R.J. Harvey and Omarion Hampton in the same tier. If you're looking,
I agree. Yeah.
What about Sean Judkins in Cleveland, who's also in this tier, ranked 22. So as far as the rookie running backs go, Genty was 4 for PFF, Omarion Hampton 15, but he is in the same tier here, tier 4, with R.J. Harvey, who's ranked 19, and Quinshawn Judkins, who's ranked 22.
I don't have a problem with Judkins right around 22-ish. I didn't get him in any of our dynasty drafts because he goes like mid-first round for the rookies, and I just think the Browns' offense is going to be bad for at least a year or 2, and by bad, I mean like awful, and their O-line to me is deteriorating. But he should get volume, and I like the player. So for that price, I'm cool with it. I mean, honestly, a lot of the guys in this tier, I wouldn't mind paying 5th round prices on or whatever. You know what I mean? If like
Right.
Breece Hall to me is too low here.
Yeah,
or
Breece Hall for what he could give
Yeah.
you if he's healthy.
Aaron Jones.
Like Breece Hall could be RB1 at the end of the year.
He's one of the names on this list that could. I mean,
He was on that trajectory in his career to be that type of a guy. James Cook is in this tier as well, and he's beaten all comers that would try to compete with him for snaps with the Buffalo Bills, even though the contract situation is what it is this offseason there with him. And so when you look at this tier, it's really easy to see the names that jump out. And it's like, oh, give me Omarion Hampton, give me Breece Hall, give me James Cook, and you can have DeAndre Swift, and you can have Aaron Jones, and you can have Chuba Hubbard or whatever. James Conner is kind of the name that jumps out, where it's like you always want to write him off, and it's like, don't write off James Conner ever. Don't do it.
I do that every year too. I just mentioned I do the same thing with Henry. I'm like, oh, he's too old. I'm going to hit the wall. And then you're playing against him, and he's scoring points on you over and over and over. Even Kamara. I mean, I don't even think Mixon's all that good anymore, but Kamara catches the ball, and running backs in that system catch the ball a lot, and the running backs he's competing with are terrible. I'm just looking for discounts here. Like, none of these names am I standing on the table for, except for maybe Hampton and Hall, for where they're going. But I'll shop in this neighborhood more than I'll shop in those second-round running backs.
Totally agree with that. As far as the rookies go, Quinshon Judkins is way behind. He's about 15 spots behind Omarion Hampton as far as rookies go.
Well, I think that's fair.
Yeah, totally fair. I think that's.
But Harvey to me is too high.
So if we think Gibbs is too high, do we think that David Montgomery is too low? He is 76 overall. His ADP is 61 right now. For me, give me David Montgomery at 61 all day over Jahmyr Gibbs at pick 5.
Yeah, or both. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'll just take Montgomery. Every year he's too low. He's super reliable, scores a ton of touchdowns. He's in a great offense. Coaches love him. He can be my running back too all day long with waiting on that position.
So there's a couple of really interesting ones here in tier 5, which PFF names starting running back candidates with tempered expectations.
Okay.
And this goes all the way down to running back 37. So this is running back 25 through 37. It's a
lot of the splits,
Yeah, and so
Steelers, Giants,
Exactly. That's what I want to talk about. So talk to me about the Steelers, Jaylen Warren versus Caleb Johnson. They're back to back. PFF doesn't know what to do with them. I don't know what to do with them. Who are you drafting, Matt?
Well, I don't think Warren's third down responsibilities are going anywhere. Passing down stuff. I mean, he's great in protection. If you look at like the advanced metrics, he's great as a receiver over his career. Johnson, they didn't run the ball at Iowa at all. So I think he's the value, because I think the early down stuff will probably be 50-50, and Warren gets the passing down stuff. Now, as the season goes on, Johnson could get more of just the pure carries, and he's custom built for this outside zone scheme. But if they're going neck and neck, especially in a PPR, I'm taking Warren.
I love TreVeyon Henderson. Loved him pre-draft. I think he's awesome in the passing game. He can catch the ball like a wide receiver out of the backfield. He's super dynamic. He's got vision. Give me TreVeyon Henderson all day, and he is back-to-back ranked with Ramondre Stevenson. Now, Ramondre Stevenson might be the guy even to start the year, but again, it's a new staff, a new regime here, which really opens the door. And I just think when you see how dynamic TreVeyon Henderson is, he's going to be the guy who's going to win the job. So I love TreVeyon Henderson. Pick 85.1 ADP. And his ADP is actually, I think people agree with me, but I think this one's going to grow potentially. Ramondre Stevenson's going about pick 104, even though he's ranked one spot higher. They are back-to-back here in New England. That's how I see the New England backfield. One of my favorites. I'm putting the stamp on it. TreVeyon Henderson. He'll be on all my teams.
I almost mentioned a couple minutes ago that I might take Henderson over Judkins, when we were just talking about rookies, or even Harvey for that matter.
I thought he was a better pure. I would have drafted him over him if I was the Browns, say.
Yeah.
TreVeyon Henderson was a better prospect, even though I do like Quinshon Judkins as a prospect as well. And I can see how Quinshon has an every down opportunity that's a little bit better because of the competition in Cleveland. But there is some competition in Cleveland too. You don't just give the job to the rookies, and there are some guys who have played in the NFL. And Ramondre Stevenson's got some wear on his tires, and I don't think he's in the situation where a rookie couldn't come just take his job in week 1 even.
Fumbling really hurts Stevenson too, and maybe this new regime has a clean slate with him, and if he holds on the ball, then he gets the bulk of the early down work. I'm still a Stevenson fan, so I agree with everything you said with Henderson, but I can't hold that against Stevenson. So I probably end up with neither on my teams, but Henderson's pretty dynamic. I mean, I was shocked that he's this low to begin with.
There's a couple more. So back-to-back rankings for the New York Giants tandem of Cam Scatterbo, the rookie, and Tyrone Tracy. And then
Tracy.
Nearly back-to-back rankings as well for Travis Etienne and his Jacksonville Jaguars teammate, Tank Bigsby. But in fact, PFF has Bigsby in a tier below, which I would have Bigsby in a tier ahead. So if we're talking about guys,
I was thinking that too.
Tank Bigsby looks like the most smoking deal of all.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the two teams, and you beat me to one of them. I think Bigsby's the Jaguar to own, and I don't know that Javonte Williams is the Cowboy to own. I'm not sure if I can get there on blue. But
how about this? And we've talked about this before. The Cowboy to own is currently a Jacksonville Jaguar, and then it fixes both problems.
Right. That's a great point.
Right. He needs to be traded to Dallas. Instead, they signed Javonte Williams, which just muddies the picture even more in Dallas.
And I know he's yet another year removed from the injury, Javonte, and I loved him before he got hurt, but that seems like a long time ago now. And before you know it, I mean, the game just washes past you. I'm not investing in him as Dallas's number one back.
We mentioned at the top how Cam Scatterbo is probably going to be a lot of people's favorite sleeper. He's not going to be mine. I do see how Scatterbo and Tracy could be a nice combination in the some skill sets that maybe mesh well, but I like Tyrone Tracy a lot more.
I expect him to be losing all the time and throwing, and that's not really, he's a little more proven. They're going to grind teams out at the end of games? Probably not,
Right. And Cam Scatterbo, I think he can offer some passing down ability, but he's not dynamic. He's just not going to give you much after the catch unless it's just tackle breaking. He would have to be, if Cam Scatterbo hits and becomes great, we'd have to talk about because I just don't think his yards per carry is going to be high. I don't either. Player, he's just stuck in the mud. He's powerful, but he's not springy and elusive and as athletic as a runner. So he would have to be like a poor man's Marshawn Lynch, where his contact balance, he's just breaking tackles at such an absurd rate. And I think it's too much to ask for him to do that, what he did at the college level and the NFL level. So
exactly. The people tackling him are just so much different, and it's a longer season, and you lose a little bit of that springiness. And I see what the Giants are thinking, but he's not for me for fantasy.
All right, so we're on to tier 6 and beyond. We're just talking full-on sleepers here. Do any names jump out to you that you will be drafting Team Williamson guys here as we head toward training camp?
A couple. I'm just looking at tier 6 here. Jordan Mason, I think, is one injury away from being really, really valuable for fantasy. And the fact that they traded for him shows, and his talent. He's a good player.
He's a good player. I mean,
he's a good player, yeah.
In that scheme, and he's just solid. Yeah, he's just a really good running back. And in any of these guys that is a good running back that still has some tread on their tires is one play away if you're number 2 to being a number 1.
I still can't quite quit Austin Eckler. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the best offenses in the league, and he's still pretty decent player. Tank Bigsby is mentioned on here. Is way too low for me.
How about DJ Giddens? He's actually tier 7. He's the first guy in tier 7 for Indy. We talked about Jonathan Taylor. I'm not a big handcuff guy, but I'd probably draft DJ Giddens in all my leagues, and especially if I had Jonathan Taylor, because I think he could be a stud, even league winner type if Jonathan Taylor goes down in Indy.
Not bad. I mean, you can get him dirt cheap. I mean, we know it was a good rookie class. Jaden Blue and Giddens, I think those guys make a lot of sense as late round flyers that are Jarquez Hunter with the Rams. He's one injury away. A couple of the Devin Neal with New Orleans. There's a handful of these mid to late round NFL draft running backs that I'll take cheap because they always end up getting an opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is the year. This is that year. So guys, remember, some of these rookie running backs that might look like they're running back 2 or even running back 3 coming into the year, they're so talented. And there's that 5th round, 6th round, 7th round running back that nobody's talking about that could potentially win your fantasy.
I might take a bunch of those cracks as opposed to using a second or third round pick in fantasy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in fact, I talked about how Kyle Shanahan loves to ride one guy. I don't think that Isaac Guerrero, the 49ers fourth round pick last year, would be the bell cow guy. I think Jordan James, the rookie fifth rounder, would be the guy if Christian McCaffrey goes down.
I was thinking that too. I was saying Guerrero is not a target of mine at all.
And I don't think Jordan James is even listed on this, even in any of the tiers. He's dirt cheap right now because he's running back 3 on the depth chart. And Guerrero would have a role. I think it would be more of a split role in that case. But I think the main back would probably be the rookie over Guerrero. I just don't think that's Guerrero's strength. That wasn't even a starter in college.
That could definitely be a preseason change. As soon as he starts looking good, and get in on him now if you can.
Absolutely. All right. Who's your favorite sleeper? Let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube, and Matt and I back tomorrow. You know what we might have on the show for the first time ever, Matt?
What's that?
Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers.
That poor guy never gets an opportunity.
Yeah, we talk too much Steelers and 49ers, so we never talk to our guys on the network that cover those teams as well. My co-host, Eric Crocker, we almost never have on the show, and Chris Carter for Locked On Steelers, we never have on the show. We're going to rectify that this offseason as we start previewing.
I've been on his show a ton, but all right.
We'll talk Falcons this week and have a ton of hosts from the network on coming weeks, getting ready for 2025 right here. Peacock and Williamson.